Thanks, everybody. All right, so when I heard that I got to give the talk about feedback, I was like, yes, because feedback is one of my favorite topics. I think it's one of the biggest opportunities that we have as organizers, which is why, well, a lot of the other talks today have touched on feedback. We're going to do a deep dive on it. I'm going to hopefully get you all as excited as I am about feedback as an opportunity, and then I'll talk about how you get great feedback, and then I'll talk about what you do with it. So let's go. Oh, I suppose I should say who I am. Like Cooper mentioned, Patrick Fuentes, GDG Twin Cities organizer, one of the mentors for the Midwest region. I'm on Twitter. I'm not great at Twitter, but that's my handle. Follow me. Maybe I'll get better. All right, so feedback. What is feedback? You could all answer this question in your head and you come up with really different answers, and that's not because any one answer is right and the rest of you are wrong. There's just different ways to think about feedback. If you only take one thing from today's talk, I would ask that you try to internalize this as your lens for feedback. Repeat after me out loud, everybody all at once. Feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift. Yes, you nailed it. Just burn that into your memory and your life will become easier and better. So when I say feedback is a gift, what exactly am I talking about? Think about a time where you went to an event. Could be a work event, could be a family event, could have been another meetup. So some kind of event you went to and you're like, this is a cool event, but there's this one thing, I don't love it. And then you could have told the person that was organizing that event, and then you didn't because you were like, I might hurt their feelings. So I'm guessing literally every single one of you could think of an opportunity like that where you could have given feedback that maybe that person didn't know about and you didn't do it. And the reason that that's such a universal experience is because giving feedback can be hard and it can be uncomfortable. So the people that are doing it are going above and beyond. And if you want them to go above and beyond, you need to view it as the gift it is. So seek it out, be grateful for it, just like you would be with a gift. Why do you even want it? Why do we want feedback? So I have this quote up here. I'm kind of a fan of it. I just find myself thinking about this quote a lot in life. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. It's been paraphrased a bunch of different ways. Why am I talking about measurement in a feedback talk? What are we trying to measure with feedback? We're trying to measure other people's perceptions. Other people's perceptions are really, really valuable. They are potential gold. There is a gift inside that box. And there's two reasons why we care a lot about other people's perceptions. First off, we all have technical backgrounds. You've been in a situation where you have some kind of problem. Maybe it was technical, maybe not. Where you're looking at it and you're like, this problem's impossible. I've been staring at it for hours. There is no way to solve this. And then you leave, you get a different perspective, doing something different, maybe a walk in nature, maybe hearing about some other problem and its solution that sounds completely unrelated. And you're like, it's the most obvious answer on earth. Why? Because you have a different perspective, right? We've all had this experience. A different perspective, you can sometimes see a thing that seems really obvious to you that another person can't see. So just keep in mind, other people's perspectives, they're going to see things you don't. That's value. The other reason is, I'm sure some of you were thinking, well, other people aren't always right. Maybe that's true. Like maybe someone would give you some feedback and by some objective measure, it's just like, wow, that's not correct. But the thing is, that is their perception, and their perception is their reality. So even if it's not like some objective truth, it is still their reality. And you knowing their reality means you can do something about it. So feedback, super valuable. All right, so hopefully I've gotten you folks as excited about feedback as I am. The two big areas we're going to dive into again, how do we get the feedback? And then once we have it, what do we do with it? So, how do we get feedback? Before we start to really dig into this, I recommend we start the same way we start thinking about any topic that involves a bunch of people. Know your audience. So, who are we trying to get feedback from? I would argue the number one most important
group of constituents that you want to get feedback from are your community members. So these folks are going to be able to give you the info you need to grow your community and to make your community stronger, make your events more successful. And the reason that they are the audience that is most ripe with value from feedback is because they can help you answer the one big question. This is the question that you've heard several folks from Google today say that they need you to answer. I've heard people from Google say they need me as a GDG organizer to answer this question more times than I can count. That question is, what is best for your community? And if you think about it, like that's the most important question for us as organizers, right? And what seems like the most reasonable way to figure that out? Ask the community, right? So this is, this all sounds super obvious, hopefully. My favorite kind of advice in life is where you hear it and you're like, well, duh. And then you say, does everybody do that all the time? And they're like, no. Okay, do that. Though that's what you're going for. That's the gold mine. Cool. So that's what we're talking about is a gold mine right here. Community members, most important audience, in my opinion, to get feedback from. That said, not the only audience. I'm going to rattle off a few different groups to think about just because I want you folks to start thinking outside the box about who you can be reaching out to and getting feedback from. I'm not going to list every possible audience out there. You folks, we could all brainstorm and be doing that for the rest of the day. I'm just going to give some examples and then hopefully get you thinking about the potential value that you could be seeing. So like, think each of these groups could be giving you a gift. It's a present. You're going to unwrap it. I can't tell you what's going to be in there. I'm going to give some examples of things I've heard people have gotten, though. So, sponsors. I've heard of people getting feedback from sponsors and getting more sponsorship. That sounds like a thing I want. It's happened to me. Other organizers. I'm guessing most or all of you are not the only organizer in your GDG chapter, or if you are the only organizer, you probably won't be forever. Getting feedback from other organizers can help you have more events and help your events run more smoothly. Adjacent local tech communities. Reaching out to like the local Kotlin meetup could help you find ways to run joint events, or it could help you get new members. Like just because someone's in another meetup doesn't mean they can't go to yours, right? Or it could just give you great tips and tricks. You folks heard people telling stories about that up on stage earlier. Employers. Sometimes you open up that feedback box, feedback gift box, and inside you find more attendees, you find more speakers, you find swag, who knows? Googlers, they've all talked to a lot of community organizers. They probably know a thing or two. Look, I can keep going all day with like different groups that you could be asking for feedback from. Ask all these groups, ask other groups. Okay, so now we have an idea of who we're going to ask for feedback. How do you go about it? People literally have written books about feedback. I'm going to give you my personal advice on the quick and easy way. This is like you go online and you find the clickbait title, and it's like this one weird trick to make getting feedback super easy. This is the quick and easy way for feedback. Two things: keep it light, keep it continuous. When I say light, I mean light like light in tone. So imagine if I'm like, all right, folks, I spent the last 6 months of my life organizing this Dev Fest. It's been exhausting. I've put strain on my job and my family, and I don't think the event went that well. And could you just tell me, like honestly, how do you think the event went? That's not a light tone. It's not what we're going for. Maybe not that. Other way to approach it, hey, do I have something in my teeth? Right, that's a light tone. That's what we're going for, right? So when you're soliciting feedback, that's the mnemonic that I suggest. Plant that in your brain. Do I have something in my teeth? The more that you soliciting feedback sounds like that, the better off you'll be. When I'm asking if I have something in my teeth, I'm saying, I have acknowledged the possibility that it's very likely something is in my teeth. If something's in my teeth, I don't love that, but it's something I'm going to fix. You know, like, right? Like, have you ever seen anyone say, do I have something in my teeth? And then someone go, gosh, I don't know if I should answer honestly. Like, right? That's what you want, right? Keep it light. Keep it light. Keep it continuous. when I say keep it continuous, I say do that because it normalizes feedback. If you are asking for feedback all the time and people are giving you feedback all the time, it's just like a thing you do. People don't think anything of it. In addition, imagine like you're at a meetup and you're having a great time, everything's fantastic, but the parking situation is just so tough. And for you as an attendee, that could maybe be a deal breaker, but you know what, you're not gonna say anything because they didn't ask about it. And then maybe you like kind of drift off and you stop attending. And then 6 months later, the organizers do their regular, hey, just wanted to check in and see how everything's going. Do you have any feedback? And you're not attending anymore, right? So if they'd just been asking for feedback all the time, they would have gotten that from you, but you're not even there anymore. It also gets people thinking about opportunities more often. Like it creates an entire like team. It puts everybody on the same team of people that are trying to think of how to make your group great. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about forms. Forms are probably one of the best ways to get feedback from a large group of people. They're fantastic because they standardize the structure of the feedback that you're getting. It makes it easy for you to sort through and organize everything. Outreach is handy. One pro tip, if I could get you to do just one thing for forms, keep it short and sweet. Confession time. Just once in my life, this is not a thing, I only made the mistake one time. I made a form that I think had more than 40 pages. It was a Google, but look, I was doing qualitative research, people. So any of you who have ever made a form or filled out a form or heard of forms can guess that my response rate was not great on that form. And the people that I like guilted into filling it out, it was just a major turnoff. Do not be like past me. Keep it short, keep it sweet. People don't want to fill out a big thing. So what if you find yourself in a situation where, like past me, you're like, but I have so many great questions. You honestly probably do. I will give you the same advice for forms that I got from my college photography instructor, he's amazing. This is like bonus material, all you potential photogs out there. You can use this same one weird trick to make your forms great and be a great photographer. So the trick to being a great photographer is take more photos than you think you possibly can. Just take as many photos as possible. That's the easy part. And then the second part is get rid of almost every single one of them. The ones that you cannot make yourself get rid of, those are great photos. The questions on your form that you cannot make yourself get rid of, those are great questions. So if you're having trouble keeping it short and sweet, like past me and current me a little bit, then that's what I recommend. All right. Okay, so I don't want to rule out long form feedback because that is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. That would be a mistake. Long form feedback has a place. It is really, really valuable. I personally would say forms are not the format where you want long form feedback. Where I would recommend getting that is going to be from one-on-one conversations. Deep, meaningful, one-on-one or even small group conversations with your community members or other stakeholders, these are just a good thing to have feedback aside. It lets them know you care about them. It lets them know that you want to know what's on their mind and that you want to address that you think that they have good ideas that can make the community better. So yeah, I mean, still do long form stuff, just not in a Google form or something. Okay, and then I think last up on gathering feedback, never underestimate the power of prizes. I was trying to find like a good quote for this, but I couldn't, so I'm just quoting myself there. It's a classic, this speaker's quoting himself. No, but seriously, this is not like a revolutionary new idea. This is me passing down something I learned from other organizers who learned it from other organizers who learned it from other organizers. I was actually, you know what reminded me about this? Is I was talking to Jay from Kansas City. I was reaching out to a bunch of other GDG organizers. And I was like, feedback, what's the one thing that did it for you? He was saying, so we sent out a survey, response, not great, didn't see a ton of responses, didn't get a ton of feedback. Next up, we try to survey with like a quarterly drawing. So regularly dropping out these surveys and just know you're entered in this quarterly drawing. It's going to be awesome. And they saw a better response rate. They got more feedback. People are like, oh, there's something in it for me. All right, yeah, I'll give you some of my good ideas. But where they really hit pay dirt was asking for feedback at the end of each event, and then 5 minutes after the people fill out that form, they are entered in a raffle, somebody gets a prize. That is where you're gonna see super high response rates. If you're just getting spinning up with feedback and you're like, hey, I want a lot of feedback real quick, try that, trust me, works like gangbusters. Fun tool out there, wheelofnames.com. If you haven't checked it out, yeah, you enter everybody's name in, you spin the wheel, there's clicking noises, everybody has a good time. All right, so the feedback is pouring in, you're swimming in it. Everything's going great. Now what do you do with this mountain of super valuable, potentially feedback? First off, I'm challenging myself to pull out all these little nuggets of wisdom from my talk while I'm getting ready. I'm like, keep it short and sweet, leave them wanting more. I could not possibly remove this bit. This is really, really important. Don't let yourself get caught up in defensiveness. If you've ever received constructive feedback and you felt a little bit defensive, that's okay. That means you're a human. That's natural. It means you care about what you're doing, and that's good. You should care. That said, getting defensive is going to get in the way of, one, you getting more feedback. Nobody wants to give feedback to somebody who gets defensive when they give it. And two, it's going to prevent you from being able to actually act on and make meaningful change with that feedback. So trust me, it's easier in advance to be like, someone's going to say something, I'm going to have some natural defensive reaction, but I know that in advance, and prepare yourself. It's going to soften the blow big time. So just before you dig into the feedback, just be ready for this. Here's my prescription, the Dr. Fuentes antidote for defensiveness. Your solution might be different, but this is one that's worked well for me. Maintain a growth mindset. So if you are familiar with that, then enough said, boom, you're set. If you're not familiar, really cool concept, tons of literature out there. Not what this talk is about, so I recommend going and reading up, but I will just kind of encapsulate it all in this little, again, one weird trick, right? I should have made this I'm writing a clickbait article after this talk. So here's the trick to keep a growth mindset. Every time you get a piece of feedback, it's not about whether you're good or bad. You're great. And you have room to improve, same as we all do, right? And this is just a way to improve, right? So every time you get a piece of constructive feedback, just try tacking this phrase onto the front of it. Imagine that the person said, whatever they said, I love this group. Thank you for making this community happen. And I care enough about it that here's a thing I think might help. Just put that in front of every single piece of constructive feedback. And I think that'll help you to kind of tamp down that defensiveness, maintain this growth mindset. You have a great thing, and you're trying to make it better. Remember, feedback is yeah, there we go. You're doing great, especially for the afternoon. More welcoming, more grateful means more feedback. All right, so I put together this handsome process flow diagram. Is it obvious I'm an engineer? This is what happens when you have me make my own slides. All right, so specifically, you get this bucket of feedback. What do you do with it? Not all feedback is immediately actionable, so you're going to want to gather all your feedback. I recommend reviewing it. Even if you review it individually as organizers, get together all the organizers for your chapter and then talk about it as a group. And when you're reviewing and talking about things, you want to figure out what's actionable and what's not. So some examples of feedback that's not actionable, stuff that's really, really vague. So stuff is not great-ish in this kind of area. And it's I don't know what to do with that. Or maybe something that you feel you can't impact. So like somebody's like, I don't like the weather. Right? Feel like I hit a dead end here, right? Well, you didn't necessarily hit a dead end if you have feedback that's not actionable. So if you have feedback and you don't feel it's actionable, but you think there could be some value there still, you can try to go back. If you have an idea of who submitted this feedback, or even if you don't, like try to go back to your community in general and be like, we've been hearing this from people, and try to dive in and refine it and get it to a place where it is actionable. If it's too vague, try to dial it in and be like, what specific, or ask questions like, what would it look like if I was more fill in the blank, right? Or what would this community look like if we were nailing X, Y, Z? In addition, feedback that sounds like there's nothing you can do about it, sometimes there is nothing you can do about it. But take, for example, like the weather. Someone doesn't like the weather. Go back, refine it, and be like, hey, we've heard people don't love the weather in Minnesota in February for DevFest. Just hypothetically, a thing you might have heard. In that situation, maybe you can't change the weather, but you could potentially change venue or some other aspects and be like, well, so we've heard feedback from a lot of people that the weather isn't great. If we were to do this thing with this venue and it's got, or hot springs, I don't know where I got the idea of internal hot springs. I'm workshopping this, we'll get there. All right, so you got your feedback, you're reviewing it as a group, you're refining it so that it is actionable to the extent that you can make it actionable. At this point, you're gonna wanna make sure that you prioritize things. Just because all feedback is a gift does not mean you have to act on all feedback. So this is probably a theme that you've heard a few times today because it matters. The favorite way that I've heard anyone explain it to me was Lloyd, actually, in the Twin Cities. He used to be mentor for Midwest when I got spun up. He roped me into being an organizer in the first place. So he has this saying I really like, which is, make it work for the organizer first. And this is totally like, we heard the same thing earlier today, like put your own oxygen mask on first. Because if it doesn't work for the organizer, you don't keep doing it. If you don't keep doing it, the community loses big time. So you got this huge mountain of feedback, and maybe it's all actionable, and it could be super intimidating because you're like, what am I gonna do with all these 50 pieces of actionable feedback? Prioritize them, pick one, and be like, hey, I'm gonna play around with that. Maybe pick a few, try that out. And if something seems really challenging for you, you don't have to do that one. I encourage you to think about the act part of this diagram when you do a thing. Think about it like you're experimenting. You're just gonna try and see how the thing works out. Okay, so coming to the close, a few more slides here. Resources, I only put 3 up here, so this is a chance for you to actually check out all the resources for a talk you went to. You could do this. First resource, Radical Candor. In my opinion, personally, it is the best book on feedback in the world. Reading it changed my life. I give free copies of it to people all the time. It's about how to get great feedback and how to give great feedback. It is fantastic. Kim Scott, author, former Googler. Real smart person. Article. This is, I mentioned I'd share a resource, I think I mentioned, on making great forms. That's your resource right there. We don't need to talk about it. Go home, you can read, make your great forms. And then lastly, if you're a podcast person, you're like, I've got enough reading material in front of me. This is a super quick podcast. I love the podcast in general. This is a really good episode. Just something to pop in your ears on the flight home, like 20 minutes. There's a lot of jumping off points if you want to go dive deeper into feedback. Really, really good stuff. So I have to throw in the classic thanks slide. I swear it's not a sense of obligation that drives me. I'm just like deep gratitude as I'm like scrambling to put these slides together and talk together all the time. Tons of really knowledgeable, really wise, really talented organizers helped me out putting this together, gave me great advice. Use this slide as a reminder, emphasizing that point you've heard time and again. You are not alone. I'm a mentor for the Midwest. I still asked all these people for help with my talk. Do it, ask for help. And then lastly, thank all of you for coming. Thank you for listening. But seriously, I'm just like so grateful to be on stage to say thank you to all of you for stepping up and being community organizers, Even in the moment, if it feels like you're like slinging pizzas and it's not, like you are impacting your community. You're making a huge difference. Thank you.